Recently, I've been talking about the topic of guarding our hearts. And I've spoke about guarding our thoughts, our ears, our eyes. But today I want to talk about the struggle of temptation, because if we don't properly guard our hearts and take the actions to guard our hearts, then it will lead us to temptation. So I want to speak about this because temptation is something that everybody deals with. But a lot of times people misunderstand it. And I'm going to explain how it actually works, why it's strong, how it becomes strong, and how to deal with it in the right way. Temptation doesn't start big. It starts small and it grows. It starts as just a little thought which grows over time. Temptation isn't just a one moment. It's not just one thought. It's not just one day you're tempted for an hour. Temptation is a process, and the process usually starts as a thought, and then it turns to an idea, and then it turns to a feeling, and then it turns into a suggestion which you're trying to convince yourself to do. And the danger isn't that first thought of temptation. It's not that first thought which seems enticing. It's what happens after. It's what you choose to do with that thought is what is going to matter. And a lot of people, most people don't just wake up and decide to fall into sin. They usually mentally move towards it slowly. So the way that temptation grows is that it starts with a thought. The enemy will put a thought into your head which is not of God, which is a past struggle that you've struggled with your whole life. It's a enticing thought. It's something that you desire, and it's interesting, and it looks fun, and it looks attractive, but it grows when we revisit that thought. Say that thought comes in and then we ignore it, but then we think about it again, and then an hour later we think about it again, and then we're interested in it and we're curious about it, and we start considering it. It's going to turn into a desire, and then once you desire it, you're going to start justifying it and thinking, maybe God will forgive me, maybe God doesn't care, God's mercy is greater than this, maybe just this one more time and then I'll stop. And action becomes easier to do it once you justify it, once it grows into these stages. And the more repetition that you go back to the temptation, the more times you do it, that's when it becomes stronger. Because the more familiar you are with it, that's when your resistance against it lowers. Because when you're first tempted with it, you're a lot stronger, you're a lot closer to God. But once you start repetitively giving it attention and considering it, that's when it goes stronger, and that's when your resistance against it weakens. Because the more you think about it, the more normal it feels. And it's not always a stronger temptation, but it can be a weaker resistance, a weaker discipline to guard yourself from that thought or that temptation. You don't need to just act on a thought for it to influence you. The more you replay it, the more you imagine it, different scenarios, different outcomes, the more you go back to it, and the more you feed it mentally, that's when it's going to get worse. That's when it's going to get stronger. And the more you entertain something in your mind, no matter what it is, good or bad, that's going to become something that you want more. The two options with temptation is to feed it or to starve it. Whatever you give attention is what's going to grow. When you feed temptation, you're constantly thinking about it. You think about it over and over again, and you engage with it, and you interact with it, and you justify it. What if? What if I do it? Maybe it won't matter. And you just leave it in your mind, just sitting in there and interacting with it. But when we starve it, we cut it off quickly. We don't give it any attention. We refuse to interact with it. We refuse to let it attract our mind. We redirect the attention of it onto something different, and we replace it with something better, like scripture or prayer. Over my journey in my faith, I've struggled with a lot of temptation, and honestly, most of the time I fail. A lot of times I fall because of one main reason, is that when I get tempted, my mind stops caring about God and His commandments. And it sounds so wrong to say, but when I'm tempted, I only care about the temptation. I only care about what it would feel like, or what it would be like, or actually taking part in it. Like, that's all I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about the destruction it's going to cause. I'm not thinking about the relationship with God that I'll ruin by doing it, or I'll set back and ruin the trust that we have. And it always got stronger the more I thought about it. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. And the reason I couldn't stop thinking about it is because that was all I cared about. And I didn't stop it at an earlier stage. I let it get so powerful that I couldn't control it. So that's why I'm making this video, is because if we stop it at an earlier stage, if we stop it at the thought, if we don't give it any power, it'll never get the chance to become so powerful that we end up failing to it. And a lot of things that influenced me is listening to music that I used to listen to during a certain time of my life. Videos on TikTok and Instagram can influence me. And honestly, one of the big ones is being like idle or being bored and being lazy. Like, I try now to distract myself the whole day I'm awake up until I sleep. And honestly, so far it's working. Just try and stay busy and keep your mind distracted so you're not idle and you're not lazy. So that way your mind doesn't have time to think about those types of stuff. And over time, throughout our spiritual growth, our love for God and our desires change. We start to love God so much that it doesn't become about not sinning. It doesn't become about avoiding sin, but it becomes loving God so much that you want Him more than anything else, that you want Him more than that temptation, because God is so much better, so much more fulfilling than whatever the temptation is. And sin becomes a lot less appealing when we grow our love for God. So just remember, don't try and fight temptation, but ignore it. Try and stop what's shaping your mind so that it doesn't shape your mind into temptation. Try and avoid those bad videos, those bad songs, any bad influences, any bad thing that you're consuming. Just try and avoid that and protect your future self. And everyone deals with temptation. It doesn't mean you're far from God when you're struggling with it. It just means that you need to start guarding your hearts better and learning triggers, learning what's going to activate temptation, stuff like that. And just rely on God's strength and pray to Him about your struggles and temptations. And I hope this helped somebody out there. If you like this video, stay tuned for the next one or watch one of the previous ones.